Shannon, Bella, and Nico are loving, caring people. They love life. They love being around people who love them. They always had good times. This is the first time they went to the beach this year, and they loved it. But God only knows what happened that night. Life will never be the same without Shannon, Bella, and Celeste and Nico. Had all their lives to live. They were taken by a heartless one. This is the heartless one, the evil monster, who dare you take the lives of my daughters Shannon, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. And they also trusted you. The heartless monster, and then you take them out like trash. You disgust me. They were loving and caring people. You may have taken their bodies from me, but you will never take the love they had for me.
Unlock the darkest stories and unravel the mysteries with Dark Crime Box. Subscribe now and step inside the world of true crime like never before.
They loved us more than you will ever know, because you don't know what love is. Because if you did, you would not have killed them. You monster. Thought you would get away with this. I don't know how. The cameras do not lie. You carry them out like trash of the house. Yes. I seen the videotape. You buried my daughter Shannon and Nico in a shallow grave. And then you put Bella and Celeste in huge containers of crude oil. You heartless monster. You have to live with this vision every day of your life. And I hope you see that every time you close your eyes at night. Oh, I forgot. You have no heart or feelings or love. Let me tell you something. I will think of them every day of my life. And I love them every day of my life. Prison is too good for you. This is hard to say, but may God have mercy on your soul. I hope you enjoy your new life. It's nothing like the one you had out here. May the courts have no mercy on you. It's hard every day. It hurts in so many ways. I have heard people say that you're not a monster. No, you are not. You're an evil monster. Thank you. Love you, Shannon, Bella, and Nico. Love you, Pop and Dad. And one other thing. And Shannon says she is super excited for justice today.
The courtroom felt colder than the hallways outside. Not in temperature, but in atmosphere. An eerie stillness that clung to every seat, every railing, every breath. It was the kind of silence that doesn't simply happen. It builds, thickens. It grows from years of unanswered questions and pain that refuses to fade. And on this day, that silence was finally about to break. It began with a single sound, the shuffling of feet as two grieving parents entered the room. The mother and father of Shanann Watts, the grandparents of Bella and Celeste, victims of a tragedy that had stolen not just their family, but their sense of reality. The people everyone waited to hear from. Yet the ones who had remained publicly quiet for so long. They walked slowly, carrying more than just their own weight. They carried the memory of a daughter who had spent her life trying to build something beautiful. They carried the laughter of two little girls who never grew old. And they carried the crushing truth that the monster who destroyed all of it had once sat at their dinner table, smiled in their home, and called them family. Every camera in the courtroom followed their steps. Every reporter raised their pen. Every spectator leaned forward, knowing this moment meant something far deeper than testimony. It was the release of years of silent suffering. But before we reached the words they came to speak, words that would fracture that silence forever, we have to step back to the beginning, to the warm home in Colorado where a young family once lived, before everything came undone, long before headlines, long before search teams and confessions. Long before the world knew the name Chris Watts for all the wrong reasons, there was Shanann, a woman who refused to give up on life, even when life had given her every reason to. A woman who had built a career from scratch, fought through chronic illness, and saw motherhood as her greatest purpose. She posted every milestone, every celebration, every small victory. To some, it looked like an online scrapbook. To others, a picture-perfect life. But to Shanann, it was her way of documenting the journey she had once prayed for but thought she might never get. Her parents watched her build that life with pride. They watched her fall in love with a man who seemed gentle, quiet, steady. A man who smiled in photos, played with his daughters on camera, and told everyone he had everything he'd ever wanted. Chris Watts, the soft-spoken husband who made smoothies for Shanann's Thrive videos, who carried their daughters to bed, who held their hands on family trips. There were no storms brewing on the surface. Not yet. But the truth, the real truth, never hides forever. It waits, festers. It reveals itself in small cracks long before it explodes. Looking back now, Shanann's parents can point to moments that didn't feel like red flags at the time, but years later, they echo with chilling clarity. Moments where Chris seemed emotionally distant. Moments where Shanann mentioned stress he wouldn't talk about. Moments where something felt off even if no one could define it. Still, they trusted him. Still, they welcomed him. Still, they believed their daughter had chosen well. And for years, the family appeared to flourish. Birthdays, vacations, Christmas mornings with matching pajamas. But behind those curated snapshots was a marriage quietly unraveling through lies Shanann had no idea existed. Hidden messages, secret excuses, a double life that would eventually lead to one of the most haunting crimes in American true crime history. But that morning, long before the police were called, long before the world searched for Shanann and the girls, her parents woke up to a normal day. They had no idea that within hours, they would step into a nightmare so dark, so unimaginable, that even standing in a courtroom years later felt like reopening a wound that never healed. Because the truth is, the tragedy didn't just take their daughter and grandchildren. It took their peace, their trust, their sense of safety, their belief in the goodness they thought they understood. It shattered everything. And now, here they were, sitting in the courtroom, ready to speak publicly about the pain they had held inside for far too long. A pain the world had speculated about, debated, twisted, and dissected. A pain that could only be understood by those who lost everything in one night. The judge looked up. The room quieted even further, if that was possible. And as Shanann's parents prepared to break their silence, the entire courtroom leaned in, because what they were about to say would not be anger. It would not be vengeance. It would not be theatrics for cameras or headlines. It would be the raw, unfiltered truth of parents who had lived through the one thing every mother and father fear the most, the burial of their own child, and the burial of their grandchildren, all at the hands of the man who should have protected them. This is where their story begins. Before they spoke, before the tears, before the impact statement that brought an entire courtroom to its feet. This was the calm before the storm, and the silence, the same silence that had wrapped around them for years, was finally about to break. If you're watching this and you want more deep dive, cinematic true crime breakdowns like this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Dark Crime Box, and turn on all notifications. The air in the courtroom hung heavy, but before the world could hear the voices Shanann's parents had kept buried for so long, the story itself demanded to rewind, to peel back the layers of a life that had appeared perfect from the outside, but was quietly bleeding from within. Shanann Watts was the kind of woman who fought for joy, not the performative kind, not the kind used to mask a troubled home, but genuine joy. She had battled illness, rebuilt her life from nothing, and walked into motherhood with the heart of someone who believed love could fix anything. Her parents saw it in her eyes every time she talked about Bella and Celeste. They saw it in the strength she forced into her voice even during the hardest moments. They saw it in every decision she made. But while Shanann was building, Chris Watts was drifting. And the drift didn't happen all at once. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a sudden betrayal. It was a slow erosion of a man losing control of a life he didn't want to admit he no longer wanted. The mask he wore, quiet, dependable, agreeable, began to crack in small, almost invisible ways. Late nights, sudden work trips, a different tone, colder presence, excuses that felt rehearsed, distance that kept growing. At first, Shanann blamed herself. She had always taken responsibility for every crack she saw in her life. She believed communication could fix it. She believed commitment could fix it. She believed he would tell her what was wrong if she just waited long enough. But the truth was already there, waiting in the shadows, tightening its hold. Unknown to Shanann, Chris was living two lives, one with his family, and one he kept hidden behind text messages, secret meetups, and fantasies about escaping the responsibilities he once welcomed. He started going to the gym more, changing his diet, buying new clothes. Shifts that might look like self-improvement to anyone else, but to Shanann something felt off. Her parents, watching from a distance, saw a daughter who seemed tired. Not physically, but emotionally. She was working hard, raising two little girls, managing a home, and trying desperately to hold together a marriage that was slipping through her fingers. But she didn't know how deep the deception ran. She didn't know that her husband, who had held her hand during pregnancies, who had carried their daughters through Disneyland, who had once whispered that he couldn't imagine life without them, was nurturing a dark fantasy of starting fresh without them. What looked like a normal family from the outside was beginning to fracture from within. Red flags that once seemed insignificant suddenly made sense in hindsight. Phone records, deleted messages, unexpected withdrawals, a growing emotional void. Her parents would later say that they sensed something was wrong, but they didn't know what. Shanann, fiercely protective of her family, didn't share every fear. She tried to manage it quietly. She tried to fix her marriage on her own. She tried to keep the peace for the sake of her daughters. But in the weeks before her death, her messages revealed a woman who was slowly reaching her breaking point. She felt alone. She felt shut out. She felt a shift she couldn't explain, as if the foundation she had built her life on was becoming unstable. What she couldn't see, what no one saw, was that Chris had stopped using lies to cover his double life. He had begun using silence, coldness, emotional distance. He was already living in a psychological world where Shanann and the children didn't fit. He was preparing mentally for an outcome so monstrous it didn't seem possible. Her parents had no idea. They still trusted him. They still believed he loved their daughter and grandkids. They still believed this was just a rough patch. Even when Shanann confided her worries, she still held on to hope. Hope that the man she married was still in there somewhere. Hope that the life she built wasn't collapsing. Hope that Chris just needed support, patience, understanding. But the truth, the horrific truth, was far beyond what she or her parents could have imagined. Because the warnings weren't just emotional. They were physical. Money began to disappear. Chris became protective of his phone. He changed passwords. He showed strange indifference toward plans for the new baby. He grew defensive when Shanann asked simple questions. All of these were signs. Signs that the life he was living, the life he was building behind the scenes, was pushing him toward a point of no return. And while Shanann tried to pull the family together, Chris was plotting the opposite. The world would later ask, why didn't anyone see it coming? How could a man so quiet and mild-mannered commit something so unspeakable? But evil doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it hides in routine. Sometimes it wears a gentle smile. And as Shanann boarded the plane home that night, completely unaware she was walking straight into the darkest moment of her life, her parents felt a strange uneasiness they couldn't explain, a heaviness, a tension they tried to push aside. Because the truth is, when danger hides in the people we love, our minds refuse to see the signs until it's too late. And for Shanann, it was already too late. Her parents wouldn't hear her voice again. They wouldn't hear Bella and Celeste's laughter again. They wouldn't see the family they believed was simply struggling. They would enter a nightmare that began quietly, but would end in a courtroom years later, where their silence finally shattered.
Take their lives. But I know God and his mighty angels were there at that moment to bring them home to paradise. God gives us free will. So not only did you take the family of four, your family of four, you took your own life. I want the world to know that our daughter and her children were so loved by us. there will always be protected by God and his mighty angels. I didn't want death for you because that's not my right. Your life is between you and God now, and I pray that he has mercy for you. From Shannon's mother, Bella Marie, Celeste Catherine, and Nico Lee's Nana. Thank you, Your Honor.
And a timeline that betrayed him at every turn. And while the world tried to understand how a father could destroy his family, Shanann's parents were forced into a grief few can imagine. Their daughter's final hours were reconstructed through digital footprints and security footage. Their granddaughter's last moments were revealed through confessions that tore through the courtroom like a blade. Every detail pierced them deeper. Every revelation reopened a wound that refused to close. When the plea deal was offered, life sentences in exchange for avoiding the death penalty, they didn't fight it. Not because they forgave. Not because they wanted mercy, but because they wanted the suffering to end. They wanted no more trials, no more cameras, no more speculation about the family they had lost. And so the sentencing hearing became the one moment they could finally speak. The courtroom braced itself as Shanann's parents rose. They walked with a heaviness that spoke louder than any words could. Their voices trembled, but their message was clear. Their daughter had been loving, protective, hopeful. Their granddaughters had been joyful, innocent, full of life. And nothing, no plea deal, no sentence, could ever return what was taken. The room fell silent as they described the hole left in their lives. A silence deeper and more painful than the quiet that greeted them earlier. Even the judge struggled to maintain composure. Every person present felt it. The weight of a tragedy that had reached far beyond the courtroom walls. And as the judge delivered multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, Chris sat motionless. No emotion, no remorse the parents could see. Only the hollow stillness of a man finally stripped of every lie he ever told. Shanann's parents returned to their seats, not victorious, but relieved. Not healed, but finally able to breathe. Their silence, carried for so long, had been broken. Their truth had been spoken. Today, their lives remain shaped by absence. Birthdays that never come, holidays that sit painfully quiet, a family tree forever fractured. But they continue to fight for Shanann's legacy and for awareness that no perfect family is perfect enough to hide danger forever. The question that lingers even now is the one no courtroom could ever answer. How does someone become capable of destroying the very people who love them most? If you're watching this, tell me in the comments, what do you believe is the real reason behind this unimaginable act? And before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Dark Crime Box, turn on notifications,